Season's greetings, Akwaba. Welcome to Diana's channel. Guys, I told you about the one-on-one of all one-on-ones you were to wait for. Well, it's coming up as we speak. You heard me mention a name in 2022 many a times, and I gave so much, extended so much gratitude to this person. Who am I talking about? Who Dan is talking about? You heard me mention Ruth Kwakwa. Yes, and it is wonderful to have Ruth on Danny's channel. You're going to learn a bit more about her. Ruth Kwakwa. Welcome. Welcome to the channel, Ruth.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
Timing is everything. November, a sweet month for me, and December just around the corner. This is the right time for you to be introduced to my audience. You know, Ruth, when I dived into the content of Africa hardcore, I would say in 2020, you know, I used to watch, you know, up to 9 YouTubers, morning, noon, and night. But when I came across the video with yourself and the indomitable Maisie Howell, I said, Diane, start packing your grips, i.e. suitcase and luggage. If Maisie could see us now, Ruth. We're gonna speak more on this video. The video was titled Visiting Ghana Before Moving to Ghana. But first, let us share with the audience, Ruth. Where were you born?
So I was born in Kingston at University Hospital, or St. Andrew. Yeah, right there. That's where I started my life.
How did you arrive on the continent of Africa? Was Ghana your first entry, or have you been to other African countries on the continent?
Well, Ghana was the first place that I lived, visited and lived. But I did visit Zimbabwe for work before actually moving here. But how it really happened was I just happened to meet my husband in college in the US, and eventually we worked our way over to here via South Africa. So yes, between South Africa and Ghana, those are the first places that I've lived.
So what year did you leave Jamaica?
So I left Jamaica after A levels, so I left in 1987. And went to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, spent 4 years there, then 2 years in Boston, and then 2 years in DC. I had started working there. My husband started working there also after graduate school. And his company basically said, we're starting an office in South Africa, in Johannesburg. Would you like to be part of the team, the early team down there? So we moved to Johannesburg after getting married in Jamaica. We moved to South Africa in 1990, started moving 1995, 1996, 1996 really. And that was the first time living on this side of the Atlantic.
Wow. So wedding on the island. How romantic, we should say. And then you followed Obi on the continent. So Ruth, how long have you been living in Ghana?
So we moved, we did South Africa for a few years, came to Ghana, went back to South Africa, and we came back to Ghana in 2010. So it's been 13 years since we came back. We stayed for the World Cup in South Africa. But we had lived here for 5 years before. So for me, it's been 18 years. So I've pretty much lived as long in Ghana as I have in Jamaica.
Wow.
And I've definitely lived more than half my life outside of Jamaica. But I go back to Jamaica quite often. I try to go now at least once, sometimes twice a year.
Awesome.
My mother and my brother are there.
Awesome. And you have obtained citizenship.
Yes, finally, yes. After many hoops. But as a spouse, I was finally able to get citizenship. Even then, there are quite a few challenges. You have to be a resident for X number of years continuously, and. But it's all behind me now. Yes.
Got there in the end, dual citizenship. Here you go.
Yes.
Jamaican, Ghanaian.
Twinning.
So Ruth, what's your background? Professional background.
Professional background. So I did my undergraduate in sociology. My graduate work was in urban planning, all with a view to international development. Why do people do the things they do? How do you organize societies for efficiency? And both of those helped me to be somebody who could get used to living in a new place. It has never been a challenge for me to get used to a new country or a new city. So we've moved around quite a bit. But I think the first experience that had me realizing that I could move around was when I was in Jamaica between 5th and 6th form. I did an exchange program. I lived in Spain. And when I had that experience of realizing that I could live in a brand new country, a country that was foreign to me, with strangers, and realizing what it took to become local, what it took to understand the world around you, then that experience basically said to me, you can live anywhere.
Awesome.
So when I met my husband in undergrad, it didn't even occur to me that there would be a challenge in moving to another country. It was just life.
And Ruth, life in Ghana. How would you say life is in Ghana for you?
I think my experience is a little different from other people in that I'm married to a Ghanaian. So basically we're creating a home, and I have an insider, so I'm not coming here like a fresh foreigner. And wherever there's love, that's home.
Yes.
So I'm fortunate in that he's the best teacher. He's very patient, so he will explain things over and over and over again so that I can understand. When we go to a funeral, when there are things that are said in tree, he will translate it for me. He gives me some of the inside nuances. So my getting used to Ghana has been a very rich experience, and perhaps easier than it is for people who come on their own, simply because I have an insider view. And we raise the children here, and you learn a lot through children and the children's friends, and we make our own friends. So yeah, life is life. I sort of don't second guess my experience here. There are things that are harder to get used to than others, but it's just part of the game, right? It's part of life.
One of the things too, Ruth, and that fascinates me about Ghana in learning still, they have so many different regions, and with the different regions, it brings forth different cultures and different languages. So you never get it all as someone just coming here. And how do you find that?
You just have to be very observant, and you have to listen a lot.
Yes.
You can't leap into things presuming that you know the behind story. Often we do, because that's what we have to do to get through life. But I think we spend a lot of time reflecting so that we can learn, so that we can better understand what's around us. I'm very aware of the fact that my husband's culture, for example, is not everybody in Ghana's culture. So he happens to be Ashanti, and he speaks Tree, which I guess it's a single most spoken language here, but it's not the only language. There are other language that people are fiercely allegiant to because that's their culture. And so I have to be mindful of the various aspects of what we call Ghana today. They're very different. The multiple cultures bring something different to what we call Ghana today, and you have to take your time to understand them. Did I catch your question right though?
Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Because again, with the presumption or the assumption, I assumed and presumed that everybody spoke Tree. So that was also surprising to me. Yeah. Right?
And especially if you come from somewhere like Jamaica, where at best we speak two languages. We speak English and we speak Patois.
Rude, me and you and I on the same page. I said that to someone yesterday, two language, Patois and English.
And everybody gets it.
Yes.
But here, there are there's scores of languages. And Jamaicans, a lot of us can't even conceive of that many languages in a place.
There you go.
So South Africa, another example. There are 11 official languages in South Africa, which are given due respect in the schools, etc. So people coming from outside need to understand that, you know, there are multiple ways of speaking, multiple ways of doing things, because each language group carries different cultural nuances. And if you're not aware of that, then you'll run into mistakes.
Well said, well said. Ruth, the video with yourself and Maisie Hoyle, who was a dear and close friend of yours, the late Maisie Hoyle. How did that come about?
So, it's a longer story, but I can do the sequence because I can see it so clearly. Years ago, in like 2006, Xavier Murphy from Jamaicans.com reached out to me before blogs were a thing. And he wanted me to write an article about what it was like living between Ghana and South Africa, just in Africa. You know, Jamaicans are curious. And so I wrote an article, and it got a lot of responses, people trying to reach out to me, asking me how they could solve their relationship issues because they were married or wanted to get married to Ghanaians. And so that took on a life of its own. Years later, when I was in Ghana, Xavier again reached out and said, Ruth, we like to do this annual Anansi festival across the world. Would you do one in Ghana? So Maisie and I went to the Efua Sutherland's former house. Efua is a very well-known Ghanaian writer, and she was a thespian and a lover of all things children. So her daughter is the same in that regard. And so we organized a whole Anansi festival with some children who were coming around to learn to read stories with her. So we kept in contact with Xavier. Then during COVID, Xavier said he was reaching out to many countries across the world to find Jamaicans. And he said, Ruth, I want to do a short video. Would you do it? So I did it, but I said, Xavier, I don't have the time to deal with the responses that I know will come the minute we talk about Ghana. No problem. We did it. It was on YouTube. People loved it. But I said, what I can do is let me create a second video with somebody who can respond to people wanting to know about Ghana. And Maisie had been doing that for years informally. She'd been helping people to relocate. She'd been helping to twin Jamaica and Ghana, being a sort of cultural mediator. She helped the embassy in Abuja, the High Commission in Abuja, to help Jamaicans between Jamaica and Nigeria and Ghana. And so I said, why don't you and I answer all the questions about moving to Ghana at a go? Because it's a lot easier to answer in one video than to have to spend countless time doing FaceTime with people wanting us to answer questions. So we set up the video. We just said, you know what, Maisie, let's do one video. We know there'll be a part 2, but at the very least, let's tell people some of the things you can do to get used to Ghana. So following on the back of the Jamaicans.com interview, Maisie and I did this video. And that's how, you know, we got the last video that Maisie did before she passed. But what a great video it was. And a lot of people were reaching out to her to say, wow, we want to come to Ghana. How do we do this? So we were just in the midst of that when sadly Maisie passed. She was a big part of our Ghanaian community here. But she left such a legacy. And that's how you and I kind of connected at some point.
And again, I will say, if Maisie Howell could see you and I here in this space, I think she would smile. You know?
She would smile and laugh and say, what a go on, girl? What you
right?
Baby girl? Yeah, she would.
Because we vibe, Ruth, and, you know, once I connected, you know, by, you know, putting a comment on that very same video, guys, I was a wellness coach. If you if you go back, you'll see me, you know, trying to connect. And once we started to speak on the phone and I said, could you do this? Can you help with this? She says, Diane, I feel your spirit. I can do all of that. The only thing I will not be able to do is find your husband.
and you know, to be clear, what she was really good about, which is what you're good about, is that my story is different. I came with a spouse, so my settling in story is very different. My access to Ghana is very different. But she could immediately, like you, identify with people who knew nobody here, who had no prior experience here, who could just move here. So she moved here in the 90s to help somebody else move, and she basically did it on her own. So she understood it like you. If you've done it on your own, you understand it better than people who do it with a spouse or who come with a company. Many Jamaicans come here with companies, which is a very different experience from doing it on your own. So really, that's, you're offering a gift to people to say, listen, you can do it on your own. See me do it on my own. Me know how it go. And that's a big gift that you're offering to the world. Honestly.
Thank you so much, Rose. Well, I tell you, I connect with Maisie, spirit to spirit, and she said to me, she said, Diane, I've spoken to many persons. I know you're coming to Ghana. You don't need to keep on telling me that you're serious. I just know you're going to be here. So, I feel extra, like there's something when I do connect with you, it's like somewhere Maisie is giving a little wink. Rose, with that video, now, today, November 2023, what are 5 factors you will say to persons out in the diaspora that they need to recognize, they need to be aware? Write it down, make notes before you decide to make Ghana, make it destination Ghana.
Right. So I'm a very spreadsheet kind of girl. I'm a planner, right? I did urban planning. Now I know there's a reason, because I sort of do the end vision and work my way back and say, what will it take to get here or to reach this point in 5 years? So one of the things I always say is, you know what? Come up with a skeleton budget. Please don't just up and come and say, no man, I'll find a job. I'm like, well, there are other places you might find jobs. You might walk into a job and the system will protect you. Please come to Ghana knowing you're going to either create a job for yourself or you're going to create a job with income for others. You're going to create a business. And what will that take? Ask relevant questions. How can I do that legally? Because please don't come here and be hiding the whole time. Say, boy, you're not legal yet, and you pay off a little person at immigration. No, please come here with full peace of mind, right? So come here, find out all the steps, and there are people who have done it before, so don't reinvent the wheel.
Correct.
And make sure you're doing it with people who are straight. So come here and say, please, what are the steps? And be prepared. And look, you can do it on your own, but sometimes there are people in the system who can help you, and they do it professionally, like how Maisie used to and how Diane does it. You know what? They figured it all out. Pay a little fee to have somebody help you, because you will save a lot of money in the process. I guarantee you. You think you can cut corners, you think the world is transparent, and you think you can do everything on your own. You might end up wasting more money trying to figure it out yourself than just asking somebody who has a template for it. So I'm a very template kind of girl. So get your budget, get your steps all lined up, and say, what does each of these steps cost? Get your end game going and work your way back. Okay, so that's your budget and that's your planning. Another thing is connect with people who have done it before. Connect with, you didn't move from Jamaica or the US to reconnect with the same people who you left behind. That's not why you moved here, right? But there are people who can translate the system for you in a way that you're more familiar with. So I would say find a few people who can decode Ghana for you, or put Ghana in terms that you understand, so that it helps with your integration. Fourth is be respectful. If there's stuff that you see and you don't understand, don't balk immediately and say, Lord, why them do it so?
Same way.
I know how my
same
are,
way,
right?
You know it goes. Yeah,
we know how it goes. So if something is unfamiliar, journal it. Try hold back, because there's something culturally that backs off when people come off like that. So hold back. And it's not about, don't do the Jamaican thing if you're Jamaican. Don't do the Jamaican thing. No, man, but I have to say what is on my mind. No, actually you don't. Okay, Jamaicans, you do not have to say everything that's in your head. Write it down, talk with other people about it, come back to it. But just sort of hold back a little bit.
Keep them out.
Keep your mouth.
Ruth, you're talking to me right here. Dianess needs to keep her mouth. She needs to keep her mouth.
You just have to hold back a little bit.
Yes.
And the fifth is, boy, just have fun doing it, but I would say it goes back to the spreadsheet. Don't be at a point where you're caught dry, because you don't want to be vulnerable. Plan for health challenges. Plan for transportation challenges. Just plan. So I guess maybe that's my fifth one again.
Fantastic. I loved it. I loved all of those 5. Key, important. Ruth, this was sweet. A pleasure. I intend for you to become a staple on the Dynast channel. Have a wonderful holiday if I do not see you
and
before 2024.
And thank you for having me, because it's always great to talk to people who are moving to Ghana. Always.
Bless you, Ruth. Guys, I hope you found this informative, exciting, and fun. I'm going to ask you to share, like, please subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thank you. Merase. God bless.